Chapter 7. Chapter 7. Capturing the Sentry. On a giant banyan tree, approximately 20 meters thick and 100 meters tall, with lush branches and leaves, the elf matriarch of this tribe, Leah, resided there. A slender elf, dressed in black stealth attire, leaped to the door and knocked, speaking urgently. "Mother, it's me, Cassandra. Come in." A woman's voice answered from inside, very mature and gentle. Upon opening the door, Cassandra saw a mature woman meticulously breastfeeding a baby in her arm, a pristine and ample sight before her eyes. This mature woman had blonde hair, a long, fair face, golden pupils, and pointed ears. Her affectionate gaze exuded gentleness and charm. The scent of motherhood surrounded her. Her sensual figure epitomized maturity. The slender and youthful Cassandra could not compare to her at all. Seeing the visitor, the elf matriarch smiled gently. "With great affection. This little one is hungry again. No matter how many times a day I feed, it's never enough." The baby suckled greedily, milk even spilling from its small mouth. For others, feeding several times a day would certainly not suffice. But for the elf matriarch, her milk seemed inexhaustible. Cassandra, slightly shy, bowed her head and stammered, "Mother, I'm here to report a discovery." "Go ahead, child." Leah spoke calmly. In the forest near the eastern edge, a dead black-brown giant bear was found, almost entirely devoured by monsters. Cassandra reported such an occurrence warranted attention, as a single black-brown giant bear could devastate this elven tribe. However, the black-brown giant bear had been killed, suggesting a terrifying presence. "Is that so?" "To my knowledge, only one creature in this enchanted forest is stronger than the black-brown giant bear, but it should live in the west." "Any specific clues?" Leah asked seriously. Cassandra thought for a moment. Based on the scene, a battle took place, but no trace of the victor was found, besides many first and second tier monsters scavenging. Numerous goblin footprints were also discovered. Could it be them? Goblins. Absolutely not. Those low-level monsters can never kill a black-brown giant bear. Not even a hero variant goblin could do it. Moreover, the goblins in this enchanted forest are weak and negligible. Hearing the word goblin, disdain and contempt filled Leah's eyes. However, the lack of any trace of the victor was peculiar. Ultimately, Leah concluded, it's most likely humans. Only those cunning and evil beings could kill a black-brown giant bear without leaving any trace. Perhaps, Mother, I'll take my leave then, and report back if anything else arises. Cassandra flashed a sweet smile. Cheerfully speaking, Leah gently patted her head. "Go on. Thank you for your hard work, child." The next day, Cassandra hurried in again. "Mother, I've discovered a goblin." Opening the door, she found not only Leah, but also two male elves in the room. Startled, Cassandra screamed and retreated, her face instantly turning red. The two male elves quickly gathered their things and exited through the window. Come in?" Leah's somewhat hoarse voice sounded from inside. Cautiously peeking inside and finding only the matriarch, Cassandra finally entered. She noticed a deep blush still lingered on Leah's mature, sensual face. The bed was very messy, with intimate garments strewn everywhere. Awkwardly, Cassandra greeted, "Mother, your bed." Cassandra, "My dear child, never mind that. Tell me what you found." Leah, also a bit embarrassed, quickly covered herself with clothing. Regaining her composure, Cassandra reported, "I found a goblin sneaking around the outskirts of the Myriad Forms forest, acting very suspiciously, daring to appear here." "Did you not kill that disgusting creature?" Leah asked, slightly surprised. She knew goblins favored elves. At the Ore outpost, goblin spying was a daily occurrence. Not surprising. But no goblin had ever dared approach the Myriad Forms forest. This was a first. Leah shook her head, feeling a bit frustrated. "I don't know how I missed it, allowing that goblin to escape." Elven archery was known for its precision, with misses being very rare, but not impossible. Leah embraced Cassandra like an infant, comforting her. "Child, it's not your fault. It's just a small goblin. It's all right. Let it be." "All right, Mother." Feeling much better, Cassandra prepared to leave. Leah called her back, her enchanting face showing a bit of shyness that made one want to cherish her dearly. "But child, next time you come in, please knock first." "I understand." "Mother." Cassandra's face turned red with embarrassment, and she hurried away. Goblin tribe. Boss. There are about 30 elven treehouses in the Myriad Forms forest, all very tall. A goblin was explaining to Lin Tian, even borrowing the fingers of other goblins to count accurately. Lin Tian nodded. "Well done. I'll reward you with 2 elves later." 2 elves. "Thank you." "Boss." "Long live the boss." The goblin sent out to gather intelligence shouted excitedly, his face contorting with joy. He was the goblin Cassandra had discovered. It wasn't that the arrow had missed. It had hit the plate armor he was wearing and did not penetrate. Lin Tian began to ponder. 30 elven tree houses, averaging 2 elves per house, though some might live alone. This meant at least 60 elves, and including the 10 or so at the Ore outpost, there were at least 70. Each elf had an overall combat strength of about 200, which Lin Tian had checked at the Ore outpost area. This was lower than his goblin subordinates, but the elves' dwelling places were easy to defend and hard to attack, and they moved quickly. Normally, it would be impossible to take them down. However, they had hunted many first-tier ghost-faced monkeys, and all had learned the climb skill. They could easily climb trees. A nighttime raid could capture them all. Gobu Yui spoke up. "Boss, are we going to attack the elven tribe?" "That's right. Tonight, we'll attack the elves. Produce more strong goblins, then," Lin Tian shouted, boosting everyone's morale. Upon hearing this, instantly, the whole tribe responded with intense shouts. They all began sharpening their knives and preparing their armor for the night raid. Meanwhile, Lin Tian planned to use the life simulation system again to see if any unexpected events might occur that night. System. Start life simulation. The life simulation system is starting. Current scenario. The night before the raid, you killed the goblin priest and took control of this small tribe, greatly enhancing the strength of all goblins. The time is ripe, and you eagerly want to attack the elven tribe to build a stronger tribe and seek revenge against the bearded man and his group. In the dead of night, you silently lead your army to the Myriad Forms forest to avoid detection. You even replace everyone's iron spears with daggers. You are confident, as your overall attributes surpass the elves, and it's a surprise attack. Upon reaching the Myriad Forms forest, the goblins climbed the tree houses, opened the doors, but found no elves. Looking back, the elves had hidden in the treetops beforehand and with their bows, overwhelmed the goblins, killing them all. You were not spared and were captured by the elf matriarch, who hanged you in the Myriad Forms forest as a warning to the goblins. Summary. What seemed flawless was actually under someone else's control. Score is out of 100. Reward. None. This life simulation is complete. Time progression. 0 days. What? Lin Tian snapped back, shocked at the complete failure and annihilation. What had gone wrong? What seemed flawless was actually under someone else's control. Immediately, Lin Tian thought of a possibility. He was being watched. His cold eyes began to carefully scan the surroundings of the tribe. Finally, he spotted a figure dressed in black stealth attire hidden in the treetops, undoubtedly an elven sentry. He had been outmaneuvered. I must capture her quickly, or it'll be disastrous if she returns. Lin Tian thought rapidly, determined not to let her escape and report back. But elves excelled at leaping between treetops, and goblins with their small bodies couldn't catch her. He could only resort to shooting a hidden arrow. Elves had keen senses, so Lin Tian had the goblins start dancing around the bonfire to distract the elf. Lin Tian, holding a homemade bow and arrows coated with his own paralyzing venom, stealthily approached the elf from below. An open attack is easy to dodge, but a hidden arrow is hard to defend against. With all his strength, he shot an arrow at her. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Hell. The Disaster of the Elves. Warning, this chapter contains slightly to moderate content. Contains mild non-in-depth rape description. Been edited by Op Not Me. Cassandra suddenly felt a sharp pain in her buttocks. Her small face turned a bright red as she finally couldn't hold back and screamed. Pain. 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 She quickly pulled out the arrow and looked down. So it's you damn goblin. I must get rid of you. Seeing this, Cassandra was filled with shame and anger. She drew her bow and aimed at Lin Tian. To everyone's surprise, she not only didn't plan to escape, but also intended to deal with these goblins herself. Lin Tian immediately started to dodge everywhere, and she followed him closely, relying on her agile movements. She was very confident on the treetops. She even chased him deep into the tribe. Looking down from above, a bunch of low-level monsters? You dare to attack our elf tribe? You must be out of your minds. No, you don't even have brains. Whoosh, whoosh. As she spoke, she began to shoot arrows. Her arrows never missed their target. However, the goblins she hit were not dead, just injured. Cassandra was somewhat surprised. Why didn't they die in one shot? In that case, I'll just shoot 2 arrows. Enemy invasion. Up there, a goblin shouted. And immediately, all the goblins began to scatter and hide. They had no way to attack the elf on the treetops and could only flee like rats. Seeing this, Cassandra was very pleased. Do you see how powerful I am? Today, I'm going to kill you all, and Mother will definitely praise me. In the mindset of the elves, goblins were the lowest creatures and extremely evil. Whenever they encountered one, they had to kill it, just like humans would stomp on cockroaches when they see them. I'll shoot you to death. I'll shoot you to death. Where's that one who attacked my butt earlier? Today, I'm gonna shoot you to death, Cassandra said angrily. The bowstring hummed continuously, and arrows flew out rapidly. Many goblins were hit. Lin Tian estimated the time was about right and slowly walked out. Standing still, Cassandra, furious, prepared to draw her bow again, aiming at Lin Tian's head. She shot an arrow. The goblins watching were terrified. Boss? Whoosh. The arrow flew past, merely grazing Lin Tian's head, but not hitting him. Cassandra's expression changed slightly. How is that possible? My hand. It feels weak. This is bad. As she spoke, she clutched her head. Feeling dizzy, she stumbled and fell from the tree. Although falling from a height of more than 10 meters wouldn't kill her, she was badly injured and looked extremely pathetic. Her stealth suit got caught on the treetops, revealing her entire appearance. She was about 6 meters tall, extremely slim, with skin as white as jade. Describing her as ethereal would not be an exaggeration. Her long legs seemed to be crafted by the gods. The silken clothes clung to her body, outlining the most beautiful curves in the world. Combined with Cassandra's struggling expression, she looked like a fairy who had fallen to the mortal world. Seeing this, a group of goblins went crazy and rushed over, their eyes all emitting an excited red light. 90% of them already had strong reactions. They had been drooling over elves for who knows how long. But with Lin Tian around, they all held back and didn't pounce. Lin Tian slowly approached, his eyes also lighting up as he looked at her figure. He sneered. Finally caught you. You were the one shooting arrows at me earlier. I damn goblin. What did you do to me? Cassandra used all her strength but couldn't move at all. Her whole body was paralyzed. Lin Tian didn't explain. Instead, he said to himself, "Since you wanted to shoot me to death earlier, I'm sorry, but I believe in an eye for an eye." He extended his claws and hooked them. Rip! The silken clothes she wore were torn open. Her skin was white as snow, as delicate as could be, and glistening with moisture. Help! Mother, brother, father. How could this happen? It's just a group of goblins. How could I? Cassandra cried out in fear, but there was nothing she could do in front of all the goblins. Lin Tian began to do to Cassandra what she had done earlier. Dang it! Congratulations on increasing your level cap by 30. Due to reaching the highest aptitude, it has been converted into 50 health points, 10 strength, and 10 defense. Lin Tian was slightly stunned. Did this mean he unlocked the elf race and increased his level cap? But what was with the highest aptitude converting to attribute points? Normally, doing this kind of thing wouldn't increase attributes. Without thinking much, his mind was elsewhere now. Mother, what should Cassandra do? What is this? Her cries for help mixed with the goblins' sinister laughter, echoing endlessly. The once innocent elf girl, who would blush easily, was tortured beyond recognition after a few hours. Seeing that the time was almost up, Lin Tian locked her in a cage first. We still need to attack the elf tribe. As for this elf, wait until tonight, then you can all enjoy yourselves. Although they were eager like wolves, remembering the attack on the elf tribe, they chose to hold back. Immediately, they readied the army and set out, leaving Gobu Yue to guard the camp. Cassandra lay weakly in the cage, crying alone. Gobu Yue felt a pang of compassion and brought her some water in a leaf. Disgusting goblin. Get away. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. As soon as Gobu Yue approached, Cassandra went nearly insane, throwing the water away and curling up in the corner of the cage, trembling. Gobu Yue sighed, speaking gently. Calm down. Calm down. The boss is a good person. He's different from other goblins. I'll make sure he treats you well. I won't believe a word from you goblins. Mother, brother, father. They will defeat all of you goblins and come to rescue me, Cassandra said stubbornly. Recalling her mother's gentle smile in her mind, she felt so cold and just wanted to go home quickly. Seeing she couldn't reason with her, Gobu Yue gave up and climbed up the tree to retrieve Cassandra's stealth suit. Put on your clothes first. Cassandra was suddenly stunned, feeling that this goblin seemed somewhat different. But she said no more. She silently prayed. At this moment, the Myriad Forms forest was silent, so oppressive it was almost suffocating. The sky was invisible due to the towering banyan trees blocking the view, leading a large group of goblins. They silently infiltrated the forest. They carried daggers for easy stealth attacks. The mission had been clearly instructed. Kill the male elves and paralyze the female elves with poison to bring them back. Looking at the tree houses, tens of meters high, Lin Tian couldn't help but marvel at how well the elves lived, without climbing skills. The chance of attacking successfully was 0. Moreover, the tree trunks had been coated with a special wax by the elves, making them extremely slippery, impossible to climb even for ghost-faced monkeys. With a hand signal, all the goblins began to climb, using their skills and stabbing their daggers into the tree trunks for support. They easily and swiftly climbed up, sneaking to the door of each wooden house. They waited for the right moment. Lin Tian climbed toward the highest wooden house, the residence of the elf matriarch. Using the silent step skill of the tailless cat, even the sharpest elf ears couldn't detect him. Through a crack in the door, he saw a voluptuous elf woman lying inside, fast asleep. Elf matriarch, LV30. Profession, archer. Title, Mother of Elves. Endless maternal love. Health, 280. Strength, 43. Defense, 39. Skills, keen senses. Precise eye. Archer's focus. Equipment, short sword. Overall, 370. Her attributes were decent, but Lin Tian's overall attributes had reached 400, so he wasn't afraid. He quietly slipped in through the window, intending to pour some poison into her mouth, avoiding a fight. Unexpectedly, the elf matriarch was far more alert than he had imagined. Who are you? Wait, a goblin. How did you get here? She immediately drew her short sword and coldly questioned him. Seeing the situation exposed, Lin Tian shouted, "Attack!" The goblins who had been lurking rushed into the wooden houses. They stabbed the male elves immediately upon sight. It was a chaotic frenzy with no chance to fight back. What is this thing? No, wife, run away. Screams echoed throughout the Myriad Forms forest, as chilling as the wails of ghosts in the dead of night. Chapter 9. Chapter 9. Expanding the tribe. The elf matriarch quickly flipped to the window to check the situation. She saw several goblins carrying the corpse of a male elf from a nearby wooden house and throwing it down. Damn goblins. Seeing this, the elf matriarch became extremely furious and raised her sword to stab at Lin Tian. However, he easily dodged due to his small stature and said, "Don't resist. Your sentries have been captured by me and mated with. We are family now." KK. Sentries. Cassandra, what did you do to her? Leah's expression was uncontrollable as she frantically attacked Lin Tian. Clang. Blades clashed. Lin Tian began to counterattack with his dagger, easily overpowering Leah. It seems you don't know what's good for you. Wouldn't it be better to obediently become a breeding tool with a swift movement? His poison-coated dagger slashed Leah's fair calf. Impossible. How can a lowly goblin fight me? Leah was shocked. She leaped lightly to retrieve the longbow from the wall, but soon realized she couldn't shoot in the confined space. She had to go outside. But when she looked outside, she was stunned. The wooden houses were engulfed in roaring flames. The scene looked like hell. The goblins were binding the female elves, transporting them below, and some had already started mating. The dead male elves lay nearby, their eyes staring in death. Why is this happening? How can mere goblins overpower us? Leah continuously questioned, hearing other elves' cries for help. Woo, matriarch. I don't want to be impregnated by goblins. Save me. My husband was killed. Someone please save us. Why are goblins here? Why are these lowly goblins so powerful? My child was taken away. What are they going to do? Leah was on the verge of losing consciousness, not from the poison, but from the shock of the situation. She immediately drew her bow, activated a skill, and aimed at a goblin assaulting an elf. One shot, one kill. The arrow pierced through even the plate armor. Seeing this, Lin Tian launched a surprise attack, slicing her bowstring with his dagger. Matriarch, you should stop resisting. I will treat you well. Go to hell. Give me back Cassandra. Leah counterattacked with a short sword, but was swiftly disarmed by Lin Tian. The poison started to take effect, making her weak. Lin Tian laughed coldly. Elves, just obediently become our playthings. I will cherish you. With a hilt strike, he knocked Leah out. Using vines, he gently lowered her to the ground. The goblins worked in an orderly manner, with some receiving and some transporting. Do not harm the children. Bring them back, Lin Tian ordered. It wasn't out of kindness, but because these children could be raised. Once their reproductive systems matured, they could be used. That night, the myriad forest became a living hell. By the next morning, Lin Tian and his group finally brought back all 30 surviving elves to the tribe. Matriarch. No! How can this be? How were they captured by goblins? Cassandra, in a cage, clutched her head in madness, unable to believe the scene before her. But Leah's voice made her acknowledge it. Cassandra, my child, it's the matriarch's fault. I'm sorry. She had grossly underestimated these goblins' strength, which was highly unusual. A single goblin's strength exceeded that of a male elf. Even she couldn't defeat them. Get off me, you disgusting goblins. By then, the goblins couldn't contain themselves any longer. Even after traveling all night, they were still full of energy. They immediately began expanding the tribe's population. Leah couldn't bear to watch and looked at Lin Tian. Are you their leader? Release Cassandra and the children, and I will stay here forever. All right, you're willing. Then show me your sincerity. Lin Tian stood there with a wicked smile. The poison weakened. Leah used all her strength to get up and cautiously began to serve Lin Tian. Cassandra in the cage couldn't bear to watch. Matriarch, you damn goblin, stop. Oh, little girl, I didn't do anything. Lin Tian responded with a cold laugh. Leah cried heart-wrenchingly, her tears blurring her vision. Woo. Cassandra doesn't need saving. Matriarch, don't do this? Ding! Congratulations to the host for receiving a qualification upgrade. Converted to 200 health, 30 strength, 30 defense. Another conversion. Lin Tian was bewildered and suddenly thought of something. Could it be that mating with Gobu Yue would really allow him to evolve into a goblin god? So, the qualifications that should have improved directly converted into attributes. In that case, if he sought out more powerful individuals to mate with, wouldn't his strength increase crazily? Now, he could already crush that bearded man. A day and a night passed. The goblins were all exhausted and couldn't move. Lin Tian locked Leah and Cassandra in a cage, keeping them exclusively for his use. The others were left for the other goblins to use freely. Leah held Cassandra, crying together. The only consolation was that they were alive and had fruit to eat every day. You two should stop resisting and focus on producing offspring here. I will ensure you get 3 meals a day. If you have any bad ideas, I won't hesitate to kill you. The key is, Lin Tian said to Leah and Cassandra. As he spoke, his eyes turned to Gobu Yue, who was taking care of the dozen or so elf children they had captured. Leah didn't respond to his words, but instead pleaded with Gobu Yue. That child has been crying for a long time. Can I feed him? Boss, what do you think? Gobu Yue ignored her and asked Lin Tian. Hearing this, Lin Tian thought for a moment. Give her the child. From now on, she will feed these children. These young elves would grow up to be indispensable breeding machines in the tribe. Then, he left the tribe with other goblins to find food for the elves, mostly. They found vegetables and fruits in the enchanted forest, which were abundant and easy to find. Matriarch, let's find a way to escape. I don't want to go through that again, and I don't want to see you suffer. Cassandra cried and pleaded. Leah, feeding a child, remained silent for a long time before saying, Child, we can't escape anymore. Soon. We will all give birth to goblin children. Are you going to abandon your child? I don't want to give birth to a goblin child. I don't want to give birth to a monster. Cassandra's face was filled with fear as she repeatedly hit her abdomen. Unfortunately, it was useless. Goblin children had incredibly strong life forces. Hitting her stomach a few times wouldn't help. Soon, more than half a month passed. Cassandra and Leah's bellies swelled significantly, indicating they were about to give birth. Gradually, the elves accepted their fate. Lin Tian approached the cage with a smug smile. How are you doing? Enjoying your time here? Leah was still very angry when she saw him, but thinking of the child in her belly, she suppressed her anger. She said coldly, Is this how you treat your wife? Keeping me in a cage. Don't worry. Once you behave, I will give you freedom. But now is not the time. Focus on giving birth. Lin Tian replied coldly and then began inspecting the other imprisoned elves. It was like inspecting pets, as elves were a type of magical creature. Fortunately, it seemed they were all about to give birth, and they were in good condition. Chapter 10. Journey to Human Territory. Time passed quickly, and the number of life simulations refreshed again. Lin Tian found a good place and started simulating. Life simulation system is starting. Current scenario: capturing elves. After considerable effort, you finally conquered the Northern Elf tribe and impregnated all the captured female elves. Seeing that the tribe members would soon expand, you planned to seek revenge on the Stubbly Man. The pregnant elves successfully gave birth to goblins, whose attributes were much stronger than ordinary goblins. Through manipulating Leah, she taught you the elves' stealth techniques. So, while the small goblins grew up, you sneaked into a nearby human town, searching for the whereabouts of the Blades of Valor, and finally found them in Bright Town. Option 1. Take action yourself and try to kill Loader and others. Rating 50. Option 2. Go back and lead the goblins to avenge, while also slaughtering Bright Town. Rating 30. Option 3. Watch and wait, thinking it's not the right time yet. Observe for a while. Rating 10. Begin. Lin Tian's expression tightened. He found those damn guys. Choosing the first option carried great risk. Although his overall attributes had already reached 600, he was still in human territory. If attacked by a group, he would definitely die. The second option was also good and had always been his plan. However, based on past experience, choosing this would definitely lead to death. This time, he chose option 3, to endure and observe. You became cautious, which is a good habit, so you stayed in Bright Town, learning that a dragon often attacked the town, and Loader had even invited the Sword Saintess to slay the dragon. When you tried to leave, you were discovered by the Sword Saintess and died miserably under her powerful sword. Summary. Facing the powerful Sword Saintess, there was no chance to escape at all. Be sure to be careful. Rating: 30 points out of 100. Reward: life points. Gara. This life simulation is over. Time progressed 9 days. Swish. Lin Tian snapped out of the system, his expression serious. Damn it. He died again. Was it that easy? Unexpectedly, it was the Sword Saintess again. He had to find a chance to deal with her. He wondered how much of an improvement she would bring him. Next, it was time for the elves to give birth. Lin Tian and Goblin helped with the delivery, fearing anyone would have a difficult birth. These elves were extremely precious breeding machines. No one could die. Wah, wah. As the cries of babies echoed, Lin Tian gradually relaxed. However, there were still voices of disgust from the elves. No, not this kind of child. So disgusting. Why did I give birth to such a horrible thing? Sob. Oh my god. Is this my child? Help. Goblin babies were only the size of a fist, sticky all over. Able to run around immediately after birth, they didn't need milk, obtaining nutrition by eating flesh right after being born. This was why these creatures were hard to eradicate. Their vitality was too strong. The key was that one birth usually produced 3 or 4. After all, female goblins highly cooperated during mating, usually producing multiple eggs. Kashana. Hang in there. Push. At this time, the anxious voice of the elf matriarch, Leah, rang out. In the cage, the jade-like Kashana was sweating profusely, lying and sitting in pain, unable to give birth. Lin Tian frowned and quickly went to check. Seeing him, Kashana strongly resisted. Get away. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. She was very angry, very ashamed, and with the pain below, she began crying loudly. Already lacking physical strength, crying exhausted her faster, risking death from weakness. Leah, also exhausted from just giving birth, couldn't help at all. She pleaded, please save this child. She's not going to make it. I know. Lin Tian, having learned about this before, directly helped correct the position. In a short while, a goblin infant covered in mucus was born. Then another. Eventually, 6 in total were born. Sextuplets. This time, she gave birth to the most. Lin Tian was a bit surprised. No wonder she had a difficult birth. You bastard, Kashana weakly said, her voice small but her stubbornness strong. Leah couldn't help but shed tears, glad that Kashana was safe. GGG, we can use them again. Let me go first. At this moment, a group of goblins, unable to bear the heat in their bodies, started crawling towards the exhausted elves. Despite the resistance and scream, they had no intention of stopping. Lin Tian's eyes turned cold. He took out his short sword and walked over. Swish. Blood splattered, and he split the leading 3 goblins in half on the spot, feeding them to the newborn goblin infants. I said they need to rest for 3 days before breeding. Have you all forgotten? Facing the murderous Lin Tian, the goblins trembled in fear and backed away. Then Lin Tian said, go prepare the best fruits. Each elf gets double the usual amount. Yes, boss. A group of goblins ran off in terror, afraid of being slaughtered. You really are different from ordinary goblins. Seeing Lin Tian at this moment, Leah's expression changed slightly, as did the expressions of the other elves who had just given birth. Lin Tian said calmly, this is how it should be. As long as you behave, your treatment will be better. Leah lowered her head and said nothing more. She looked at the small goblins she had given birth to, who were now lying beside her eating, and she didn't know what to think. Gobu, I plan to visit the human territory in the next few days. The tribe will be under your management. Lin Tian gazed into the distance as he spoke. A flash of murderous intent flickered in his eyes. He intended to find the whereabouts of Loader and the white-robed nun. Gobu Yue looked a bit worried but nodded anyway. At this moment, Leah's voice rang out. You're going to human territory. Are you crazy? Goblins get killed just for approaching. What choice do I have? I can only take the risk. Lin Tian shrugged. After a long pause, the hesitant Leah finally said, Come over here. I'll cast the stealth skill on you, so you won't be easily detected by humans. This was exactly what Lin Tian had been waiting for. He teased. I didn't expect you to care about my safety. How rare. Not at all. I just fear that if you die, the other goblins will be more brutal. Leah blushed slightly and then helped Lin Tian complete the stealth buff. After a simple disguise, he covered his body with a stealth cloak that made him look like an ordinary passerby about 1.5 meters tall. It looked quite strange. But with the stealth buff, most people wouldn't notice him. Lin Tian felt assured with this outfit. He then set off. Leaving the Enchanted Forest, Chapter 11. Chapter 11. Discovering Loader and his companions. His equipment consisted of exquisite iron armor and a finely crafted short sword. Both his defense and power were significantly higher. Even reaching the level of human blacksmithing, dealing with ordinary monsters was a piece of cake. Before long, he left the Enchanted Forest and saw a small village in the distance, with smoke curling from the chimneys. People were busy working in the surrounding fields. Knowing from the system that Loader and his companions were in Brighttown, Lin Tian walked towards a farmer, intending to ask for directions. As he approached, the farmer finally noticed Lin Tian. Old man, don't be afraid. I'm a human adventurer. Can you tell me where Brighttown is? Lin Tian asked. No, I don't know. Get lost. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. The farmer was startled by his strange appearance, especially since he was coming from the direction of the Enchanted Forest. He was extremely wary. He raised his sickle, ready to attack. Killing intent began to spread in Lin Tian's eyes. I'm just asking for directions. Calm down. The farmer still looked very frightened. I said get lost. Swish. In the next second, the sword pierced through the farmer's mouth. Blood splattered. Lin Tian's face looked very grim. I was just asking for directions. Was it really necessary to make such a fuss? It seems you really deserve to die. If this disturbed the village, and the people attacked him en masse, it would be troublesome. Unfortunately, it was too late. A few villagers who had just returned home saw this scene and shouted. Immediately, more than a dozen strong men with farm tools came, full of killing intent. These villagers lived around the Enchanted Forest and were no strangers to fighting. Ekeler, LV11. Race, human. Profession, farmer. Title, none. Health, 101. Strength, 23. Defense, 14. Skills, none. Equipment, who? Overall, 100. It had to be said that humans were naturally much stronger than goblins. But compared to the current Lin Tian, the gap was too vast. He easily killed them all. He then slaughtered the entire village and forced them to reveal the location of Brighttown. If he had known, he would have just forced them directly. He had foolishly tried to greet them politely and ask. He almost had no feelings left for humans. Killing them was no different from killing monsters or beasts. After traveling for a day, he finally saw the bright lights under the night sky in the distance. Brighttown. It looked quite large, probably home to 200 or 300 families, covering a vast area. It even had professional defensive walls. It was almost like a small city. However, entering the town at night would easily expose him, so he decided to wait until morning to blend in with the large crowd. Sure enough, even though the guards checked, they didn't notice Lin Tian. The stealth buff only worked well in a crowd. Upon entering the town, it was unexpectedly lively. The people here all seemed to be smiling and happily strolling around. The numerous vendors made the scene dazzling. I didn't expect people to live so well in this world. Lin Tian found it hard to believe. Surviving in the Enchanted Forest was tough and nerve-wracking for him. These people even had spare money to buy snacks and go for a stroll. When he reached a small square, he finally understood. Brighttown Adventurer Team Rankings. 1. Platinum level. Blades of Valor. 2. Silver level. Gale Adventurers. 3. Silver level. Savior Adventurers. 4. Bronze level. Posakaya Adventurers. This must be the human world's ranking list. He didn't expect Loader and his scumbags to be at the platinum level. They must have improved a lot recently. So what? I already have an excellent plan. Even if the Sword Saint test comes, you won't escape my grasp. Lin Tian continued to wander around the town. He wasn't just wandering idly. He was surveying the terrain, estimating the population, the number of soldiers, and the defense facilities. He even took note of the underground drainage systems and so on. He wanted to fully grasp all the information about this town. By nightfall, he had figured it all out. Just as he passed by a tavern, he heard that familiar, hateful voice. Drink. Keep drinking hard these days. Ads by Pub Future. Loader. Immediately, he entered the tavern to see what was going on. Unexpectedly, the place was packed, with people crammed in from top to bottom. This was perfect for him. Lin Tian found a corner and scanned the crowd, finally spotting Loader and his companions. They were sitting around the center of the tavern. It was still the same few people. Leader Loader, the white-robed nun, the red-haired knight, and the silver shield bearer. At this moment, Loader took a hearty drink and said proudly, "You don't know? When facing that four-armed demon ape, it almost killed me with one punch. Fortunately, Ephraia used the holy skill, Foresee Death, to save me. That's why having a healer in the team is so important. The four-armed demon ape was a 4th tier monster, level 40, extremely powerful. Upon hearing this, everyone couldn't help but cheer. Ifreya, my goddess, as expected from the Holy Church. She knows the legendary foresee death. I'm so envious. A healer is important, but having such a beautiful healer is even more important. Dream on. Even getting a whiff of Ifreya's scent would be a New Year's blessing for you. Everyone, watch your words. Is it appropriate to blaspheme a goddess? Listening to the flattery. Ifreya's nose was practically in the air, she said in a mock humble manner. The leader is still amazing. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible to kill the four-armed demon ape with just me. The red-haired knight and the silver shield bearer grumbled beside her. What? You're only praising your man? Don't we count? No. You two are amazing too. Alright. Ifreya replied in mock annoyance, casting a flirtatious glance at Loder. Their relationship didn't need much explanation. At this moment, a resident mocked, "You two are impressive, but Loder is still part of our Lionheart Empire's imperial family, and also a disciple of the Sword Saintess." This was also why the Sword Saintess took him as a disciple. The imperial family, no matter how weak or strong, wasn't something easily defied. Lin Tian's expression changed slightly. He hadn't expected that guy to have such an identity. However, even if it were the emperor of the Lionheart Empire, he would still have to die. The red-haired knight and the others started to get annoyed. What does it matter to you if our leader is from the imperial family? Shut up. They immediately began to argue. Stop arguing. Recently, the evil dragons on Dragon Island have entered their breeding season and often come to steal the herders' cattle, sheep, and horses, making people afraid to graze their livestock. You adventurers are so great. Why don't you go slay the dragons? At this moment, the tavern owner spoke in a contemplative tone. He was wiping glasses at the bar, his tone heavy. Slay dragons. That was indeed every adventurer's dream. But dragons weren't so easy to slay. It was known that an adult dragon was at least level 50 and could fly. They had immense health and high attack power. Only diamond-level adventurers could handle them. Anyone else would just be offering themselves up as a meal. Hi everyone. The Lionheart Empire is called an empire. However, it contains many characteristics of a kingdom. In the Raws, for example, many things that should be referred to as imperial are referred to as royal. I've changed all mentions of Royal King to Imperial Emperor to match the Lionheart Empire naming. I'll talk more about it later. Chapter 12. Chapter 12. Sword Saintess. The resident who had just been rebuked said at this time, "You all are so great. Then the dragon slaying task is yours?" The red-haired knight was furious, but he didn't dare to take on this task, no matter how much he pretended. He wouldn't dare to speak lightly about dragon slaying, especially since it was a dragon of Dragon Island. Dragon Island was separated by dozens of kilometers of sea, and it was home to dozens, even hundreds of evil dragons. It was said that it had even nurtured a dragon king at the elemental level. That was equivalent to a 6th tier magical beast. At this moment, the tavern keeper sighed. Alas, it seems that Brighttown is in trouble. We must quickly seek aid from the capital. Otherwise, those evil dragons might even eat people. During the breeding season, dragons needed a lot of nutrients, and each dragon needed to eat 2 tons of food a day. The nearest land town to Dragon Island was Brighttown. Undoubtedly, it would become the dragon's first target. This was just the beginning. It was terrifying to imagine what it would be like when dozens of dragons came to prey. How could this happen? It's over. Is Brighttown going to be destroyed by dragons? I need to hurry home and pack my things to escape from here. Where can you escape to if Brighttown is finished? Do you think other villages and towns will be spared? Fear showed on everyone's faces. They didn't know what to do. The tavern keeper cursed again. Isn't it because the current adventurers are all cowards? If they had gone to kill the dragons on Dragon Island earlier, there wouldn't be so many now. At this moment, Loder finally spoke, calmly saying, "Everyone, rest assured, I have written a letter asking my master to come and slay the dragon. With her here, it will be a simple matter, and there is no need to request troops from the capital." What? Wow. Really? We can see the unparalleled beauty of the Sword Saintess. This time we've hit the jackpot. Not only can we see the Sword Saintess, but we can also witness dragon slaying firsthand, in an instant. The previously dispirited residents were invigorated and extremely excited, who hadn't heard of the Sword Saintess's stories. She had single-handedly swept through the 1,000-mile magical forest to the west of the Empire. She had defeated the strongest swordsmen of several neighboring countries in single combat, winning every match. Most importantly, she was said to be as beautiful as an angel fallen to the mortal world. Some perverts even wanted to be judged and punished by her. At this time, Lin Tian slowly got up and left the tavern. If he stayed any longer, the Sword Saintess might arrive and discover his identity. However, he had already gathered enough information. When the Sword Saintess and the others fought the dragon, he could seize the opportunity to take out some key targets. His goal of killing or capturing Loder would be relatively easier soon. Another month passed. Lin Tian tried simulating life 3 times, succeeding twice and failing once. The failure was not due to the Sword Saintess discovering him, but because Loder was killed by the evil dragons in the chaotic battle. Although he had succeeded, if he didn't do it himself, it would lose its meaning. It had to be done personally to be effective. As the time for the dragon's massive attack on Brighttown approached, Lin Tian began preparing for a sneak attack. This time, about 70 to 80 second-generation goblins had been born. All had grown to adulthood. Small goblin. LV11. Race. Goblin. Profession, none. Title, elf bloodline, exceptionally gifted. Health, 110. Strength, 15. Defense, 13. Skills, gene devour. Equipment, none. Overall, 100. Even if these second-generation small goblins were whiteboards at around level 10, their attributes were close to those of ordinary humans. They naturally had a level cap of 30, making them very powerful. If there were hundreds, even thousands of these goblins, leveling up to the max would be enough to take down a human city. Perhaps the third or fourth generation would be even stronger, but whether that was effective remained unknown. So, Lin Tian did not bring these goblins this time, he only brought the first generation ones. Even if they all died in Brighttown, he wouldn't feel any pain. He also didn't plan for them all to come back alive. Now was the time for survival of the fittest, even though these guys had fought alongside Lin Tian before. But goblins were goblins. Where was the talk of emotions and humanity? They were just consumables. Then, leading nearly 100 fully armed first-generation goblins, he set off for Brighttown. Inside Brighttown, the grand arrival of the Sword Saintess had the whole town celebrating for 3 days and nights. In the church, a tall woman, at least 178 centimeters, clad in dazzling gold and white armor, stood inside praying. Her tall stature, paired with the longsword at her waist, exuded an imposing aura. A white cloak with gold trim added a touch of sanctity. Outside, Loder cautiously entered and said, "Master, recently we've seen a few evil dragons lurking near the town. Since no one is grazing their livestock, they seem to be getting impatient and may soon attack the town." Even though he was of imperial blood, he could only behave respectfully in front of this extraordinarily powerful swordswoman. He dared not have any impure thoughts. "I understand. Let's go! We need to arrange for some dragon hunting crossbows. Otherwise, none of you will be of any use when the time comes, and it will be my disgrace." The Sword Saintess turned slowly as she spoke. At that moment, even Loder's heart trembled. Her flawless face was a masterpiece, every line exquisitely crafted. Her red lips seemed to exude moisture. However, her eyes were covered with a white silk cloth, adding an air of mystery and making her seem unattainable. Although her eyes were covered, it did not impair the Sword Saintess's vision. She walked straight out. Outside, most of the men in the town were gathered around the church, craning their necks to catch a glimpse of her beauty. Oh my god, is that the Sword Saintess? So noble, so beautiful. What is that invisible aura of sanctity? It's much more than what I feel from nuns. A woman who combines power and beauty? I can't imagine what kind of man could conquer her. Don't even think about it. Even our Lionheart Emperor wouldn't dare make a move on her. As the Sword Saintess emerged, the residents made way. Her commanding presence was entirely different from that of the townsfolk. They heard her say, "Collect a large amount of wood and build 10 dragon hunting crossbows within a day." Yes, yes, yes. A group of people eagerly began working, fearing they would be looked down upon by the Sword Saintess if they did too little. Of course, even if they worked hard, they wouldn't earn her esteem. Otherwise, she wouldn't cover her eyes with a silk cloth. This world wasn't worthy of her direct gaze. If anyone was, it would be a man capable of conquering her. In less than half a day, the wood was collected, following the blueprints provided by the Sword Saintess. 10 dragon hunting crossbows were completed before nightfall. They were placed at various high points around the town. These crossbows were so large they needed wooden carts for mobility and required the strength of more than a dozen adult men to pull back the strings. Each was about 10 meters long, equipped with 2-meter-long bolts. Only then could they be called dragon hunting crossbows. Chapter 13. Dragon Invasion. Roar. Suddenly, a thunderous roar echoed from the distant sky, deafening and shattering. It was a fear embedded in human instinct. Most of the residents of Brighttown were so scared that their legs went weak, nearly collapsing to the ground. Women and children ran into their houses in terror. Even Loder and his team wiped cold sweat from their foreheads. The dragon's might was too terrifying. However, a majestic figure stood on the city wall, a platinum cape fluttering in the wind, showing no fear at all. It boosted everyone's morale. The fear significantly diminished. After all, with the Sword Saintess here, everything would be fine. Tell the residents to let the elderly, women, and children take refuge in the shelter. Leave these flying lizards to us, the Sword Saintess said coldly. Full of disdain, besides Loder's group, the other hero teams mainly assisted in evacuating the masses. Suddenly, the clouds in the sky were swept away by a gust of wind. The dragons finally appeared. Their bodies were covered in black and brown skin, without fur, sharp fangs, and claws, with dragon wings that blotted out the sky. Their size was about 15 meters, but their maximum wingspan was close to 50 meters. They were just like the dragons in Western mythology. "Have they arrived?" the Sword Saintess said calmly. She single-handedly loaded the dragon hunting crossbow, aiming at the sky 700 to 800 meters away. Aimed and fired. Whoosh! A piercing sound of the arrow breaking through the air exploded instantly. One must know, this crossbow required 10 adult men to pull it, and she did it single-handedly, fully drawn. Incredibly, a distant, sorrowful dragon's roar rang out. The giant dragon, like a bird with broken wing, fell from the sky. This scene immediately moved all the residents of Brighttown to tears of gratitude. Indeed, the Sword Saintess is incredibly strong. We just need to take refuge, and when we come out, the dragon threat will be over. God bless us. After this incident, We should build a grand statue for the Saintess. The residents, amidst cheers, hid in the shelter without any tension or fear. However, 2 or 3 dozen men stayed behind to help. With the hero teams, about 50 people in total, it was more than enough. With the fall of the first dragon, its death roar immediately enraged the remaining dragons. 7 or 8 dragons that came out to hunt quickly broke through the clouds, heading towards Brightown. Moreover, on Dragon Island hundreds of miles away, a giant creature suddenly opened its eyes. I have already shown you how to use the dragon hunting crossbow. Don't be too stupid, the Sword Saintess said calmly. Suddenly, she executed a rapid spinning kick, sending the timber used to make the dragon hunting crossbow flying. In the distance, a dragon's pupils suddenly contracted. It was too late to dodge, and blood spurted from its eyes on the spot. Screaming, it lost direction and crashed to the ground. The nearby dragons were puzzled, only to be struck by more flying timber. All hit their marks. Although it didn't kill the dragons, it caused substantial damage. This scene left everyone else stunned. The timber scraps could suppress so many dragons, and her eyes were still blindfolded. If she took off the blindfold, the timber scraps would probably slay the dragons. She was incredibly strong, at a whole different level. The real dragon is coming. Everyone get ready at the dragon hunting crossbows. At this moment, the Sword Saintess said solemnly, seeing her on guard. The others were so scared they scrambled to get in position. Roar. Suddenly, a lightning-like dragon roar resounded through the heavens and earth. This roar far surpassed the previous dragon's roar, on a completely different level. Look there. Oh my god, what is that? A resident shouted in terror. In the distant sky, a truly enormous dragon broke through the clouds. Its head was larger than an entire ordinary dragon. Its body was dark purple with numerous prominent golden purple bone spurs. So massive it seemed like a mountain moving closer. A creature over 100 meters long. With a wingspan close to 500 meters, the swarming dragons around it looked like tadpoles in comparison. Loader's heavy voice spoke, Purple Gold Dragon Mother. A level 79 super monster? Is that the Dragon King? Quick, shoot! The crowd finally reacted. All drawing their bows and loading, 10 dragon hunting crossbows fired simultaneously in the direction of the Purple Gold Dragon Mother. The piercing sound of the arrows breaking through the air felt like it could rupture eardrums. However, the Purple Gold Dragon Mother opened her gaping maw, spewing a torrent of golden purple flames. The incoming arrows were all reduced to ashes. Moreover, the flames lasted for an extended period. They shot from over a kilometer away, reaching the front of Brightown. Everything in its path was scorched to cinders, rendering the arrows ineffective. Faced with that terrifying heat wave, the residents' legs went weak, unable to stand. If they were to be hit by those flames, they would turn to ashes instantly. High-tier sword skill. Sword key surge. Finally, the Sword Saintess drew her sword. A flash of cold light appeared as a magical array gathered on her longsword, unleashing a sword key wall as grand and overwhelming as a tsunami. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. It directly blocked the dragon flames. Loader had seen much in his time, but the other members of the hero team were so shocked they nearly shouted. High-tier sword skill. My god, it's high tier. As expected of the Sword Saintess, witnessing the use of a high-tier sword skill is worth dying for. The dragon flames were just blocked like that. Incredible. Sword skills, magic, martial arts, and so forth were collectively referred to as combat skills. They were categorized into low tier, mid tier, high tier, super tier, ultimate, world class, half moon class, full moon class, and sun class, among others. A high-tier magic spell was already rare to see anyone use, not to mention the higher levels. With the dragon flames blocked, Loader and his team quickly fired more arrows. 3 flying dragons were shot down on the spot. The remaining arrows hit the Purple Gold Dragon Mother. But to her, they were like toothpicks, merely causing slight pain. Roar. Despite some losses, the flying dragons entered the town's range. One blast of dragon flames and a house was instantly destroyed, mouthful after mouthful. They wreaked havoc, destroying everything effortlessly. The residents hiding in the shelter, hearing the deafening sounds, couldn't help but feel a bit frightened again. At this moment, a mother comforted her crying child. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Everything will be fine. We just need to stay here. It's very safe. Yes, even if the town is destroyed, we won't be affected. It's very safe. With this reassurance, the residents breathed a sigh of relief. At worst, they could rebuild their homes later. But was it really safe? What a beautiful fireworks show. On a small hill far from Brightown, Lintian watched the sea of flames in the distance, unable to help but sigh. As he spoke, a wicked smile appeared on his lips. Chapter 14. Chapter 14. Sneak attack successful. The dragons in the sky were indeed imposing, terrifying the hundreds of goblins behind them into trembling. Wyvern. LVF1. Race. Subdragon. Profession. None. Title. 5th tier monster. Fire element manipulator. Symbol of glory. Health. 530. Strength. 91. Defense. 102. Skills. Dragon Flame. Dragon Roar. Bite equipment. None. Overall, 600. Even a random dragon had such absurdly high attributes. And they could fly? Lintian couldn't help but be surprised. Brightown had provoked an entire dragon nest, probably around 50 or 60 dragons. It was definitely going to be destroyed. However, with that figure, that powerful figure present, it was hard to say. Alicenia. LV80. Race. Human. Profession. Sword Saintess. Title. Sword Saintess. Strongest swordsman. Dragon Slayer. Peerless warrior. Top human. Swordsmanship genius. Health 1700. Strength 690. Defense 700. Skills. Sword key tempest. Unity of man and sword. Holy. Iron Gale. Star and moon / holy. Death sword reincarnation. Holy sword intent. Equipment. Platinum battle armor. Holy. Fine gold longsword. Holy. Clear cape. Overall 4000. Damn it. Seeing this familiar figure, Lin Tian couldn't help but shout out, damn it. It was too monstrous. He had thought there was only a slight gap, but it turned out to be a terrifyingly huge difference. Currently, his overall strength was only 750, which left him with no ability to resist. At most, he could handle an ordinary wyvern. The key was that her titles and skills were so many that the system couldn't even list them all. Moreover, many of them included the word holy, giving her a holy bonus specifically against monsters, adding an extra 10% damage, fighting her. Even if he had a group of big goblins behind him, would be hopeless. However, Lin Tian's target this time was not her, but Loader and his people. As long as he could complete his revenge first. Boss? What is that? How can it be so powerful? A goblin stammered. They saw the sword saintess weaving through the air, not flying, but stepping on those wyverns. Every now and then, a sword slash would decapitate a dragon. In the midst of her jumps, she had already slain dozens of wyverns. It was unbelievably overwhelming. Moreover, her target wasn't ordinary wyverns, but the purple gold dragon mother about 1,000 meters high. Using this momentum, she leaped onto the purple gold dragon mother. She immediately slashed through its giant wings, causing the purple gold dragon mother to plummet into the distance. Boom! Such a terrifying fall kicked up a storm of yellow sand, almost swallowing Brighttown. Meanwhile, Loader and his group had only managed to kill 10 dragons in total, but at least they had almost wiped out half. The remaining wyverns frantically spewed dragon flames, destroying the town. They also set their sights on Loader and his people, with claws extended. They pounced. Ephraia, prepare. Loader called out with a serious expression. The white-robed nun immediately activated her skill, Holy Sound, chanting the Bible. Within a certain range, teammates received an attack boost. Mid-tier sword skill, Sky Slash. Whoosh! Loader's longsword charged for about 10 seconds, releasing a stunning sword energy. It was about 3 meters long. It slashed open the attacking wyvern's abdomen, spilling its guts all over the ground, and it fell. I'm a dragon slayer too now. Afterward, Loader was extremely excited, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. From afar, Lin Tian kept his gaze on him, astonished that this guy could also kill a dragon with one move. It was unbelievable. Loader, LV41, race, human, profession, bladesman, title, disciple of the sword saintess, imperial descent, dragon slayer, health, 700, strength, 164, defense, 133, skills, Sky Slash, unity of man and sword, holy, sword dance, sword song, equipment, fine longsword, fine armor. Overall, 900. Overall, this guy's strength was higher than Lin Tian's, but he didn't intend to confront him head on. Instead, he aimed to strike when he was vulnerable. That's how a goblin should be. A bit treacherous. The battle in Brighttown gradually reached its climax. The town had completely turned into a sea of flames, and the buildings were almost entirely destroyed. Many people had died in the battle. Only about a dozen wyverns remained. Follow me. Finally, Lin Tian decided to move, leading the goblins into the town's drainage system, crawling bit by bit inside. Because they all had a stealth buff cast by the elves, they were less likely to be discovered. Eventually, they reached the central area of the town. Based on his memory, Lin Tian found the location of the underground shelter. Lin Tian instructed, you go down and cause a commotion. The rest of the goblins hide and wait for my command. From a distance, Loader and his group were already covered in wounds. Their health was less than half, very weak. The white-robed nun was also exhausted, unable to continue. The red-haired knight and others were in similar states. Their overall strength had significantly diminished. Lin Tian had been waiting for this moment. He just needed to lure them over. Goblins. Why are there goblins here? No, my child. Help. Call the adventurers to save us. Inside the underground shelter, the terrified voices of the residents echoed. A man frantically rushed up, shouting, Ah! Goblin invasion. Where are the adventurers? Goblins are attacking the shelter. What? Loader and the others nearby frowned. Damn it. Where's my master? Turning to look, the distant ground was covered in dust. They could hear dragon roars and sword clashes, indicating the battle was still ongoing. The purple gold dragon mother was not easy to deal with. You two hold on. There aren't many dragons left. Ephraia, come with me. Let's kill those damn goblins, Loader said angrily, rushing over in a hurry. 20 meters, 10 meters, getting closer and closer. Suddenly, a short sword stabbed out from the ashes, piercing Loader's foot. Ah! It hurts. Loader screamed, thinking he had stepped on something sharp, only to realize it was a goblin. He quickly moved to kill it. At this moment, the hidden goblins pounced on him. Initially, he could resist, killing a dozen goblins, but the sheer number overwhelmed him, all aiming to seize his sword. In the end, he had to admit defeat. Captain, help me. I've been captured by goblins. Ephraya's panicked voice rang out, as she was ensnared in a net, being dragged along the ground. Like dragging a dog, it was very humiliating. Loader's heart tightened. Damn it! Damn it! Why are there so many goblins here? However, he was already very weak, and without his weapon, He couldn't resist. Health was linked to stamina and energy. With low health, his stamina also dropped, leaving him with no strength to fight back. Damn it. Captain Ifreya. The red-haired knight and the silver shield bearer saw the situation from a distance and, ignoring the wyverns, rushed over to help. But as they passed a pile of collapsed buildings, a chill ran down their spines. Chapter 15. Chapter 15. The Sword Saintess's Great Defeat. Lurking for a long time, Lin Tian struck, his face full of a cold smile, directly piercing the body of the red-haired knight. When did you... The red-haired knight's eyes widened in disbelief. No! Loder let out a painful shout, but could only watch helplessly as the red-haired knight's health hit 0. He slowly fell to the ground. Blood flowed everywhere. Finally, he became motionless. At this moment, the silver shield bearer also reacted, confronting several ambushing goblins. Luckily, his defense was high, otherwise he would have been killed by the ambush. After a few moves, he unexpectedly discovered that these goblins were not only strong fighters, but also had high defense. There were even some using spears, making it impossible to get close. Captain, these goblins are no joke. There are only 6 of them, and I can't hold them off. The silver shield bearer's terrified voice echoed as the goblins forced him to retreat repeatedly. At this moment, the goblins picked up burning torches and threw them at him. The flames ignited the fabric on his armor, burning him directly. It hurts. It hurts so much. The silver shield bearer screamed hysterically. He threw down his shield and ran around wildly, becoming a human torch. Damn goblins. I will kill you all. Loder roared with heart-wrenching fury. Ifreya also burst into tears, even though she had never reacted like this when facing dragons. Now, 2 teammates had died directly. Lin Tian coldly smiled and said, "It's time to go. The rest of you, go hunt those controlling the dragon crossbows." Then, with about 10 goblins, he took the 2 and jumped into the drainage ditch, making a quick escape. Just like that, Brighttown was completely thrown into chaos. Earlier, facing a group of dragons that had wreaked havoc on the town, they had not panicked. But now, they were completely disoriented. At the foot of a distant mountain, a large area of trees collapsed into splinters. The small animals were so frightened that they died from fear, not even having a chance to escape. The Sword Saintess was fiercely engaged in her battle. Several hills had been leveled. It was extraordinarily shocking. What's going on? Goblins dare to invade at a time like this? The Sword Saintess's tone held a hint of surprise as she coldly stared at the woman in purple armor before her. Now, she had taken off her blindfold, revealing deep azure eyes. It was as if 2 icebergs were in her eyes. The woman in purple armor was the purple gold dragon mother, transformed into human form. She stood about 2 meters tall, with a very hot figure. The armor wasn't exactly armor, but an exoskeleton grown from her flesh, very imposing. Her golden slit pupil eyes were extremely sharp. However, her body was already covered with wounds, oozing lava-like blood. The purple gold dragon mother opened her mouth full of sharp teeth and said, "It seems you can barely take care of yourself, human Sword Saintess." As she spoke, she reached out with her clawed hand and attacked again. Her speed was incredible. The force of her movement sent wood splinters flying into the air behind her. The Sword Saintess still handled it with ease. "Barely take care of myself. Let's see how much more dragon blood you have left to spill." High-tier sword technique. Steel Gale. She formed magical runes on her long sword and began swinging wildly. Each strike released a powerful, tangible sword key, dense and numerous. The purple gold dragon mother's pupils contracted, and she quickly covered her head to defend, the exoskeleton on her body growing madly to encase her. However, under the Steel Gale, the exoskeleton shattered continuously. Her whole body was sent flying, deeply embedding into the ground. The diverted Steel Gale slashed 10-meter long, 3-meter deep cracks into the ground. It was a shocking sight. The Sword Saintess was about to pursue but was interrupted by the piercing screams of Brighttown's residents, breaking her focus. Since her task was to protect Brighttown, it wouldn't count as protection if everyone died. She had to turn back and rush towards Brighttown. Goblins, thank you very much. I almost got finished by this crazy woman. I won't let you off. The purple gold dragon mother, covered in blood, struggled to stand up, transforming back into a sky-covering giant dragon. She flew towards Dragon Island. With a roar, the remaining dozen dragons also followed. Continuing was no longer necessary. The losses were too severe this time. Did she escape? Never mind. I'll personally go to Dragon Island and slaughter them clean. The Sword Saintess looked up at the sky and whispered. Then she hurried into Brighttown. Residents emerged from the shelter, and a group of goblins was wantonly slaughtering them, bodies strewn all over the ground. Many female residents were even being violated by the goblins on the spot. These scenes fueled the Sword Saintess's fury. Under her watch, Brighttown had become like this? Loder, you useless fool! Can't you even kill a bunch of goblins? However, no one responded. The Sword Saintess's anger intensified. She raised her longsword high into the air. With a roar to the sky, she shouted, "Ultimate sword technique. Heaven's finale." Instantly, a powerful aura erupted from her, extinguishing all the scattered flames within 100 meters. Immediately, a massive magic circle began forming in the sky. Swords formed from magic fell from the heavens. They landed precisely on the goblins' heads. In less than 5 seconds, dozens of goblins, each as strong as an adventurer, were all dead. However, the Sword Saintess found it somewhat overwhelming, her body noticeably swaying. She could have killed them one by one without breaking a sweat, but the chaotic crowd greatly hindered her. A strong fighter like her, wielding such power, risked injuring ordinary residents. At this moment, a severely injured adventurer stepped forward. Your Holiness, Loder and the others. They were captured by the goblins. He was none other than the second ranked in Brighttown, the leader of the Gale Heroes. Beck. What? The Sword Saintess was shocked. Captured by mere goblins. After all, he was considered her disciple. If this got out, it would be incredibly embarrassing. Beck, clutching his wound, seemed to recall something terrifying and spoke with some hysteria. These goblins are very unusual. Each one is as strong as a big variant. The red-haired knight and the silver shield bearer are dead. Why? Why did this happen? Hearing this, the Sword Saintess looked to the side. Indeed, she saw the bodies of the two, each one as strong as a big variant. I'll slaughter every goblin tribe in the surrounding enchanted forests. At this moment, she was enraged. Wild sword energy swirled around her. Every step she took left spiderweb-like cracks on the charred ground. At this time, a resident crouching in fear on the ground spoke up. Saintess, are you leaving? What will we do if you leave? Yes, Saintess. If those evil dragons come back, what will we do? There might still be goblin remnants. Many residents, trembling and crouching on the ground, were full of fear.